Hi, Bruno Jr. here. Our podcast, Busting Addiction and Myths, is sponsored by SafeHouseRehab.com. SafeHouse believes that traditional treatments fall short of the needs of clients who face the modern problems of addiction. Modern problems need modern solutions. Multiple addictions, multiple relapses, multiple triggers, and cheaper and more powerful street drugs set up unprecedented challenges facing treatment centers. What is needed is a more sophisticated approach, a better way forward. There are 3 reasons to choose our progressive modern treatment program. 1, a more sophisticated intake process. 2, technology proven to enhance recovery. And 3, the most robust aftercare program in our sector. To learn more, visit us at safehouserehab.com. This is episode 13, season 7. Heroin, a true global menace. Let's consider episode session number 4 in Bruno J's drug class. Of all the drugs known to man, heroin and its precursors, opium and morphine, have likely had the most impact across the world and throughout the ages. Although opium has a history going back several thousand years, morphine was first derived from it in the 19th century and was used as a medicine to treat all manner of ailments. Heroin was first synthesized in 1874 in England as a safer alternative to morphine, which had millions addicted to it by the end of the 19th century in Britain, Europe, and the U.S. Little did the good doctors know that they had unleashed an even more deadly alternative to an already deadly and fast-spreading addictive substance. So let's fast forward to today. As of 2019, 50,000 overdose deaths in the U.S. alone are attributed to opioids of all types, including OxyContin, Vicodin, heroin, codeine, and fentanyl. Here's where it gets interesting. Although the vast majority of overdose deaths can be attributed to heroin and fentanyl, the latter 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin, we also know that heroin is often cheaper than the likes of OxyContin on the street. In a study of those entering treatment for opioid use disorder, fully 1/3 reported using heroin as the first opioid they used regularly to get high. This clearly suggests that heroin has become an alternative to illegally obtained prescription drugs because heroin is cheaper and more available than the likes of OxyContin on the street. Enter fentanyl from China. Now let's add the wild card called fentanyl. This synthetically derived opioid comes from China and now shows up in almost every class of drug from heroin to cocaine to marijuana, even methamphetamine. Why is that taking place? What gives this specific opioid that kind of appeal? Let's start with the fact that it packs quite the punch for the money. A tiny amount of a few micrograms, that is thousandths of a gram, can add a big lift to the effect of any drug. So the dealer can then cut the dope further and make more money in the process. The user does not have to know fentanyl is blended into his heroin. He does believe that his dealer is selling some fine dope, and the user will more likely than not look for that same dealer on the street. The tragic downside is that fentanyl is associated with a spike in heroin overdose deaths in the last 10 years, during the time that fentanyl hit the streets, ultimately finding its way into every corner of the country, which does suggest that perhaps the users don't realize the risks they are taking when they use their DOC, drug of choice. Heroin comes in powder or black tar form, the latter from Mexico, while powder comes from Asia, including Afghanistan and Southeast Asian countries such as Thailand and Laos. Perhaps addicts don't care whether their dope has fentanyl in it or not. Street cops report that heroin addicts like it when a doper dies because that means that the batch the dead guy died from was really killer dope. And they look to get some more of that dope right now. Obviously, addicts don't think like normal people think. That's what makes them addicts. Their brain chemistry is warped. When addicts inject, sniff, snort, or smoke heroin, and when mixed with crack cocaine is called speedballing, the drug enters the brain rapidly and binds to opioid receptors, especially those involved in feelings of pain and pleasure, and in controlling heart rate, breathing, and sleeping. So there really are two separate functions, reducing pain, which is good, and increasing pleasure, which is even better. The short-term effects are mostly negative. Heroin users report a rush, a surge of pleasure, of euphoria, and the following not-so-pleasant effects. Most of the effects aren't all that pleasant. You pay a big price for that surge of pleasure or euphoria. Dry mouth, warm flushing of the skin, heavy feeling in the arms and legs, nausea and vomiting when craving, severe itching, clouded mental functioning, going on the nod back and forth between being conscious and semi-conscious. Long-term use is deadly. Long-term use and abuse results in a long list of frightening effects. Insomnia all around the clock, collapsing veins for those who inject, which most users do, damaged tissue inside the nose for those who snort or sniff, infection of the heart lining and adjacent tissues, abscesses, swollen tissue filled with pus, constipation and stomach cramps, liver disease including hepatitis B and C and kidney failure, and lung complications including pneumonia. Then there are disabling mental effects such as severe depression and antisocial personality disorder, along with sexual dysfunction for men and disrupted menstrual cycles for women. So that's a whole long list of bad things that can happen with long-term use. Now, pure heroin is bad enough. More often than not, however, it's mixed with additives such as sugar, baking soda, starch, or powdered milk. When a mixture of any of these and heroin is directly injected into the vein, it clogs the blood vessels, leading to permanent damage to the lungs, liver, kidney, and brain. And add fentanyl, and now the user is truly playing a game of life and death each time he injects some of Dr. Death's poison. In 2019, over 1 million people are believed to have used heroin in the past year in the U.S. These addicts need more and more of the drug to get the same effects, so the addiction is indeed a progressive one. And withdrawal is painful. When these addicts attempt to kick the habit, they experience extremely uncomfortable and often painful symptoms of withdrawal, including restlessness day and night, severe muscle and bone pain, insomnia day or night, diarrhea and vomiting, cold flashes with goosebumps, that's why they call it cold turkey, uncontrollable leg movements, that's why they call it kicking the habit, and severe cravings. Narcan to the rescue. It is possible to reverse the effects of heroin overdose if caught in time. Many communities in the U.S. make Naxalone or Narcan available to ordinary citizens. Given promptly, Narcan can revive an addict and possibly save his life in a matter of minutes. Recovery is definitely possible. Heroin addiction can be treated with medications such as methadone, lofexidine, and buprenorphine. Many treatment centers offer one or more of these as part of their detox process to help heroin addicts come down and come off the drug. In some ways, heroin addiction is treated just like any other. The key to healing and recovery is to admit defeat, accept help, and radically change thinking and behavior. Where this takes place is in Narcotics Anonymous, found at www.na.org, in a counseling setting with a trained addiction specialist, and in a family setting with the support of loved ones. Online meetings such as Zoom are also available. Family members should consider contacting Al-Anon in their hometown to get the help they need to heal from the effects of addiction in their own homes. Al-Anon is to be found at www.al-anon.org, and online meetings are also available by searching, for example, Zoom meetings for Al-Anon. So what have we learned about heroin? Well, we learned that 1, heroin has evolved from its original form as opium to the current state of heroin in its basic powder or black tar form, and is now readily available everywhere in the world. Number 2, heroin is more often than not cheaper than prescription drugs, and that helps explain why more addicts report heroin as the first opioid they tried. Number 3, the health effects of long-term heroin use are frightening. The disorders caused by long-term use include major damage to the heart, liver, kidney, and the cardiovascular system. Number 4, Help is always available for those who care to look. Families should turn to professional addictions counselors, point their loved one to Narcotics Anonymous, and get help for themselves by connecting to Al-Anon. Our podcast is sponsored by SafeHouseRehab.com, a modern approach to recovery. To learn more, visit us at SafeHouseRehab.com.